Hello there. What is going on, everybody? Today I'm talking about the top 10 ships that we never got to see in Star Wars X-Wing. Ships that perhaps we should have seen. Now, this is going to be my top 10 list. You might disagree with this, and if you do, I want you to let me know down in the comments section below. We are also doing a new round of the giveaway right now for a $25 Amazon gift card that you can put towards a ship or gaming expansion of your choice, or a Star Wars DVD or something like that. All you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. This will run for about 2 weeks, and then we'll announce the winner at the end of a video. So make sure you watch my videos all the way to the end. All right, so let's preface this top 10 list here with a little bit of, obviously, my personal bias. I'm including ships from both current canon and from Legends. And what that means is, X-Wing started when it was still using Legends content. And so if X-Wing had continued to go, specifically under FFG or in the old style, how might we have gotten more ships? What might we have seen? It did seem like they still had the ability to create ships from Legends. It seems like that was becoming more and more of an embraced thing. So, perhaps certain things would have shown up, perhaps certain things wouldn't. But there's also been a lot of new canon, a lot of new shows, a lot of new ships showing up in these shows that also I think should have showed up. And also there were some things from existing canon that just never made it in. So this is my top 10 list of ships that we never got to see in X-Wing that perhaps we should have. And there's a variety of reasons. I want you to let me know what you agree with and what you disagree with down in the comments section below. Let's go ahead and start off with number 10, definitely one that's near and dear to my heart. It's going to be the Rogue Shadow from the Force Unleashed series. Look, this was my way to get Starkiller into the game. I've always been a big fan of the Force Unleashed. I've always been a big fan of Starkiller and Sam Witwer and all of his variety of characters that he has played, and I always wanted to get this ship in the game. Now, there was a chance to get this one into the game for a while because you did have Juno Eclipse, the pilot of this ship, in the game in its high advanced X1 and X-Wing 1.0. So at least for a period of time, it seemed like there was a definite chance to get this one in game. However, when they made the change over to second edition, Juno was pulled from that, so it didn't seem like it was going to happen. But then again, Legends are becoming more and more reality, and there was always that chance that they were going to bring back Starkiller at some glorious point. I would have loved to have seen the Rogue Shadow show up. Also, I believe it had a cloaking device too, so it could have done some cool stuff. We've already seen that with the scimitar and things like that in Clone Wars. So for larger ships to be able to do that, so always pretty cool idea. Moving on to number 9, from more recent canon, from the Ahsoka series, we have the T6 Shuttle. Ahsoka's shuttle in this show looked very, very cool. It was nice seeing it in very clear high res. Made for a lot of toys. The marketing potential for this one easily sold itself. It would have been a great option to include. Plus, it would have pulled double duty as a Clone Wars ship. So you could have used this for Rebels or maybe Scum if she's independent, also for Clone Wars. So having ships that can do multi-faction are very cool. Plus, the whole thing moves around, and you can have a whole swivel base on there. They were doing more movable parts in X-Wing. They were really taking X-Wing to this level of excellence in its miniatures, which is such a cool thing. Moving on to number 8, also from the Ahsoka series, Shin Hati's Fiend Fighter. There were a whole swarm of these, and there were a lot of different pilots you could have done. You had all those generic pirates. You had Shin Hati herself. You had Marok, the Inquisitor ghost thing. So, you had a lot of different characters that would have worked for these, and they were effective in a swarm. Not the toughest, but again, it just fits X-Wing very, very well to have stuff like this. It just seems like it would have been an auto-include at some point. Moving up to number 7, we've got a controversial pick, and I know that some of you are not going to like it, but I like it, and it's on my list. So here's my number 7. Are you ready? Okay. Look, the T-47. I know people are saying it's a snow speeder. It's a ground craft. Well, yes. However, the T-47 was modified to become a snow speeder. They're also air speeders. They were modified in a lot of different ways. Now, I want to start off talking about you could modify these to fly in space. There's at least one example in Legends where they were modified to be able to fly in space. So it's definitely doable. There's also the option they could have made a modification card or something like that, an upgrade card that allows it to fly in space. But there are also battles that take place in atmosphere. There was rumors of an X-Wing ground game. More than rumors, I was told point blank that was definitely something that was going to happen. So they would have also worked very, very well in that if we ever did get the X-Wing ground game. But they could have pulled double duty as something that works for atmospheric flight, something that works for a ground game, and then also something that can work in space games as well. If they were modified, might have required an extra upgrade card or a points increase or something like that for it to work. But the other thing is that these are just so darn iconic, and that they're so recognizable. Stuff like this is going to sell. People are going to want these in their collections because they're incredibly recognizable. Anything from the original trilogy is definitely recognizable. So that's why the T-47 is on my list. I think they would have found a way to include it, not just for a ground game, but also as a modified atmospheric flight and into higher atmosphere and then even into space, because there were some examples of that happening, although I don't think any in current canon. Speaking of atmospheric flight, my number 6 is the Cloud Car. Also probably controversial, but also recognizable. And I think you have a better case even for using this in space than you do for the T-47. Granted, yes, it pulls double duty if they want to do the ground game. It definitely pulls double duty on atmospheric flight and in space. But these had pressurized cockpits. These ones were more capable of going into space. Yes, they were still considered an atmospheric craft, but they went into much higher atmosphere. They were also, specifically designed to deal with incoming starfighters for Bespin, so they definitely fit the role of what they would do in a game like X-Wing. Having 2 separate crew compartments gives you an awesome gunner slot option. There's very recognizable from also, just like the T-47, also from Empire Strikes Back, the most popular Star Wars film of all time. So again, collectors are going to want these. Everybody's going to want these. But also they were in Battlefront's like Starship mode too, like fighting against other starships. So there's like semi-recent examples of them being outfitted to work in space. And granted, Battlefront with the more recent incarnations of Star Wars Battlefront have done a lot of their Starship games in atmosphere. Again, a lot of X-Wings have been doing battle in atmosphere and in deep space, so it definitely works. But again, you can have X-Wing battles that take place in atmosphere. It's dogfights happen everywhere, and these guys would pull double duty for both a ground game and a space game. So and super recognizable. And I've always kind of made the case for the Cloud Car. Moving into Legends for our number 5 pick. It's going to be Lando Calrissian's Lady Luck, the Luxury 3000 yacht. He had this all throughout Legends, and it is now canonized as well. And I say canonized, and some people are like, I don't care what it's like. I get that, but it's nice to see that it's showing up like everywhere, that it's more of a universally accepted ship. And I think it definitely is long overdue for showing up in this game. The thing is, I think they could have had a lot of fun with this ship, having lots of like hidden surprises, a ship that seems unassuming, but also a ship that could be very cheap if anybody other than Lando is running it. But when Lando runs it, all of a sudden it becomes very expensive because it has a lot more capabilities. And I think that could be a very cool thing. You could do different ship cards for Lando's version versus everything else. Similar to how you did like the old Outer Rim Smuggler for the YT-1300. And then if like Han or Chewie were flying it, it was like had way more special modifications, right? But also way more cost. I think that's, something that they could have done with a ship like this. Moving up to number 4, we're jumping into Epic with the Consular class cruiser. Yes, the Republic definitely have need of another epic ship, and that especially with the Trident coming for the Separatists, all of a sudden you had a dedicated Separatist ship for Epic, and didn't have one for the Republic. It seemed like this was definitely something that was on the at the drawing board, probably something that was already had a sculpt made that just hadn't been sent to the printers yet. That's my guess. It's one of those things I need to investigate further. But the fact that this one never came out is just baffling, almost as baffling as a lot of other decisions that were made. But this is definitely something that should have happened. It fits the bill perfectly all throughout the Clone Wars. It's a perfect size to fit, to kind of match that smaller capital ship that fits X-Wing's current epic scale perfectly. And of course, I always wanted them to get into bigger ships like the Architans and the Nebulons and things like that. I think those also had a place for epic and extreme games of X-Wing. They've been homebrewed enough that they look awesome on the table, but without having to go to that extreme and that high cost measure. Here's a ship that kind of mirrors, the size of the CR90 and stuff very, very closely, and would have worked out perfectly on your tabletop, and also would have, fit the bill for something that they could sell and people would want to buy. So yeah, the Consular class cruiser at my number 4. Moving on to number 3, we're taking a page from video games. They've already done Iden Versio and some of the stuff from Battlefront, but what about Jedi Survivor, Jedi Outcast? Cal Kestis and the Stinger Mantis. This one definitely would have shown up almost certainly with the popularity of the Jedi Outcast and Jedi Survivor games. This is a larger ship, might have been a little bit more difficult to actually manufacture. They might have even had to consider a different box, or even making this one like where the top wing kind of snaps off and then you put it back in, inside the box. I don't know, but it did have that awesome rotating centerpiece that would have been really cool. Might have been tricky depending on where they put the stand. I think they would have had to put the stand kind of in the middle, somewhere around here, and to allow that swivel base to rotate. But man, what a cool design for a ship. And to me, this is one of those things that Star Wars is all about, just coming up with stuff that's fun. I don't know if there was a real in-universe, scientific explanation for why that thing needed to rotate in the way it did, but I don't think it matters really. I also don't think there's a whole lot of reason why the B-Wing needed to rotate, with that gyroscopic cockpit, but other than the fact that rule of cool, it looks awesome, and I'm all about it. Like the fact that X-Wings, with the S-foils, this allows them to air cool a little better. And there's no air in space, but I guess there's air in Star Wars space, because again, if it looks cool, let's make it happen. And this ship looks pretty cool. And that rotating center section just, screams out, this needs to be an X-Wing for me. So that's number 3 with the Stinger Mantis. Moving on to number 2. Are you ready for our most popular crew in years that has spanned multiple shows and has shown up everywhere? It's the Bad Batch flying into your X-Wing tabletops with the Marauder. Obviously, these guys were tremendously popular, and they've showed up in other games. The Bad Batch has showed up in other games like Shatterpoint and Legion. Of course, this would have been a ship to show up in X-Wing. I'm actually really surprised they never did this. I mean, this was in Clone Wars Season 7. It was also in Bad Batch's, all of Bad Batch's seasons. I mean, it was their ship. It was incredibly popular. This was a massively popular ship. And it had wings that moved and went up and down and stuff too, so you could do cool stuff with the wings. And then you would have all these built-in crew that could have come with it too. So much you could have done. This could have been like a 5-crew ship or something crazy. Maybe the ship itself. They could have even mirrored the way that the Bad Batch work in Star Wars Legion, where the ship actually doesn't do very much, but the more of the Bad Batch you put on it, each one of them specifically enhances this ship. And so, again, that would have worked better under the old scoring mechanism where upgrades actually costed points. So this would have worked, I think, really well under X-Wing 1.0 and X-Wing 2.0. I don't think it would have made as much sense in the 2.5 and that abomination of a rule set that AMG did, but I think it would have worked better in the, in more classic versions of X-Wing. If they wanted to do that, that would have been really cool, and I'd have loved to see it. Let me know what you guys think. I think of things like how they did IG-88 and the IG-2000, like adding more of something to kind of, multiply itself, and having all of the crew on here would have been super awesome. Have you guessed what my number 1 pick is? Has anybody guessed? Well, if you want to go back and pause the video now. Let me know what you think the number 1 pick is down in the comments section below. I'll give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Our number 1 pick. Or my number 1 pick. I say our number 1 pick. The creative minds at work here have chosen this for your enjoyment. Our number 1 pick for most wanted ship that we never got in X-Wing. From Andor, it's Luthen Rail's Fondor Hallcraft. This thing was so cool. Honestly, it was ridiculously cool. Luthen Rail was also really good with it too. Had so many secret gadgets, and it was incredible. It makes me want to watch Andor again for this episode over and over and over again. It was demolishing fighters. It took out a capital ship. Although granted, it didn't take out the capital ship with firepower. It was clever thinking that took out the capital ship, so that kind of balances it. But it has like freaking lightsabers. It's a ship that has freaking lightsabers, the swirly, cutting everybody. It's got like the Death Blossom lightsaber kind of maneuver. Like something like that is insane. And it also runs the risk of maybe being too powerful. So I think you'd have to make it like a once per game ability where it just rolls a lot of dice on people, and it's that are, I would say people that are in both its front arc and rear arc. So like in other words, if you're directly to the side of it, you have the side lines on every ship base now, so it's super easy to do. You have that line already there. You can totally make use of it. Works out perfectly. It's just this screamed X-wing to me when I saw it. I'm like, oh my gosh! And I think when this launched, the reality was setting in that we weren't going to get any new ships, for X-wing. So when I saw this for the first time, I'm like, oh, if only there was a possibility of getting new ships. So this is my number one pick, that Fondor Hallcraft from Andor Season 1. And that's my list, folks. Now, you may have noticed that I didn't include anything from Skeleton Crew. I'm still making my way through that show right now, so I'm not done with it yet, so I haven't included anything from there, and I think the one ship is a little too big, even for Epic, but maybe. I haven't done all of the research on that, but I kind of want to watch that whole series first before I guess. So maybe there'll be another one of these lists in the future. I definitely should do one of these for Armada as well. Let me know what you want to see next from the channel also in the comments section below. And don't forget to join our Discord and other social media links in the video description below. And I will talk to you guys later. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are out of this world and help make the whole channel possible. Thank you so much for your continued support. I will talk to you later. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. So say we all. The spice must flow. You can't take the sky from me. And always wash your socks.